The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing.
A high-stakes diplomatic standoff erupted in the Oval Office when former President Donald Trump abruptly ended his meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, rejecting a proposed $180 billion minerals agreement and questioning ongoing U.S. support for Ukraine's war against Russia. Zelensky had arrived in Washington, D.C., seeking long-term aid and a strategic deal that would grant the U.S. priority access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, critical for military technology and advanced electronics. In return, he sought firm security commitments and continued American backing in Ukraine's fight for sovereignty. However, the discussion quickly took a tense turn.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this.
you're
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the
cards.
cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm not playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling
I'm the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
What do you think
You're
about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So.
Seated alongside Vice President J.D. Vance, Trump leaned back and asked bluntly, "Why should America keep bankrolling this war?" Vance reinforced the skepticism, questioning whether Ukraine's progress justified further U.S. investment. Zelensky, clearly exasperated, warned that abandoning Ukraine would destabilize Europe and ultimately create bigger challenges for the U.S. He dismissed the notion of negotiating with Vladimir Putin, calling it futile. That was when Trump's frustration boiled over. Slamming his hand on the table, he reportedly snapped, "You're pushing the world toward World War III. The United States has already given plenty. You can't just demand endless support while shutting down every alternative."
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
Tell you
You're
again,
running low
I know.
on soldiers.
Don't
You're running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then you tell us, "I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this." Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting.
Zelensky pushed back, reminding Trump that Russia had repeatedly violated past ceasefires. But Trump shrugged. "Putin never broke a deal with me," he retorted. The atmosphere grew more charged as Trump made it clear he had no interest in open-ended aid. When Zelensky pressed for concrete assurances, Trump stood up, effectively signaling the meeting was over. The abrupt dismissal sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, marking a stark shift in U.S. foreign policy and raising serious questions about the future of American support for Ukraine. Washington was rocked by an intense diplomatic clash as former President Donald Trump abruptly ended his meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in what has been described as one of the most dramatic confrontations in recent history. Seeking renewed military aid and a high-value minerals deal,
President, is there no deal? Mr. President, can you tell us what happened? Is the deal off? President Zelensky, can you tell us what happened?
Did you sign the deal? He's on the phone.
I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either.
Zelensky instead walked away with neither, and a bruised reputation. From the outset, the atmosphere in the Oval Office was tense. Trump, flanked by Vice President J.D. Vance, questioned the necessity of continued U.S. involvement in Ukraine's defense, pressing Zelensky on the possibility of negotiations with Russia. There is no peace with Putin unless he fully withdraws, Zelensky asserted. Vance sighed, shaking his head. So, no matter what, the war continues? Without hesitation, Zelensky responded, yes, that was the breaking point. Trump leaned back, fixing a steely gaze on the Ukrainian leader. If you're not ready for peace, why are you here? A heavy silence followed. Then, in a move that stunned the room,
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I'm not hearing from you, Mr. President, a thought that you owe the President an apology.
No, I respect President and I respect American people. And if, I think that we have to be very open and very honest. And I'm not sure that we did something.
Trump ordered his aides to escort Zelensky out. Some hesitated, unsure if he was serious. But he was. We don't waste time with people unwilling to discuss peace, Trump stated coldly. Zelensky and his delegation were left in shock. No U.S. president had ever dismissed a foreign leader so abruptly within the Oval Office. As he stood, Zelensky remarked, I came here as an ally, but allies don't force bad deals on each other. Trump fired back, allies don't demand endless money either. Zelensky exited with his composure intact, but cameras captured the strain on his face. Hours later, Trump took to his social media platform declaring, Zelensky is not ready for peace. He disrespected America in our sacred Oval Office. He can return when he's ready to talk about peace. The fallout was immediate. Zelensky had a packed schedule in Washington, including meetings with lawmakers, defense officials, and corporate leaders. But as news of his clash with Trump spread, key events were abruptly canceled. His scheduled speech at the Wilson Center? Scrapped. A press conference with Senate leaders? Postponed. Private discussions with defense contractors? Called off. The message was clear. Without Trump's backing, Zelensky's influence in Washington had taken a severe hit. Reactions flooded in. Supporters of Trump praised his hardline stance, while critics warned of the consequences. One commentator argued, Zelensky is demanding unlimited aid while his country is in crisis. He can't win without Western support. But does that mean America should foot the bill forever? Another posted, how is Trump dangerous when he's the one pushing for an end to war? The Stand with Ukraine movement was all talk. Zelensky reportedly said the U.S. is protected by an ocean, but that one day even that won't be enough. Trump and Vance reportedly went ballistic before he could clarify. Maybe it was a misstep under pressure, but Trump wasn't going to let it slide. While J.D. Vance stood by Trump's approach, calling it bold diplomacy, other Republicans voiced concern. Senator Lindsey Graham issued a stark warning. Abandoning Ukraine would be a historic blunder. With Trump asserting his stance on foreign policy, the rift over Ukraine is widening, leaving the world to watch what happens next. Ukraine's battle against Russia has reached a turning point, and the stakes are higher than ever. Without continued U.S. military aid, Ukraine's ability to defend itself could be severely compromised. President Volodymyr Zelensky remains resolute, but the reality is that Ukraine's military strength is heavily reliant on Western assistance, especially from the United States. The pressing question now is, what comes next? If the U.S. pulls back, can Ukraine still hold the line against Russian forces? Will European allies step up with sufficient financial and military aid to compensate for the shortfall? Or will mounting pressure force Ukraine to consider negotiations, potentially on Putin's terms? Even within Ukraine, concerns are growing. Some military officials caution that without consistent U.S. aid, battlefield conditions could shift dramatically in Russia's favor within months. While Ukrainian forces have proven resilient, they can only continue fighting as long as resources allow. Trump's decision to abruptly end Zelensky's visit has thrown U.S.-Ukraine relations into uncertainty. What was meant to be a pivotal diplomatic engagement instead ended in a political firestorm, casting doubt over America's long-term support. Many now debate whether Trump's move was a strategic power play or a diplomatic misstep. For Ukraine, losing U.S. backing would be a major blow. While some argue European nations might compensate, the truth is that no single country can match the scale of assistance the U.S. has provided. So, where do you stand? Did Trump cross a line by cutting off Zelensky, or was he simply reinforcing his policies? Share your thoughts in the comments and be sure to follow this channel for the latest updates.